He came in expecting control, silence, and obedience. A billionaire used to being seen, feared, and respected. His disabled son stayed close, used to being ignored. And then something happened. In the middle of that crowded room, quiet, almost invisible, a black waitress made a choice no one expected. One small moment, one gentle act, and the power in the room shifted. What the father saw next forced him to confront something he'd spent his life avoiding. Was this just kindness, or a mirror exposing a truth he could no longer escape? Before that night, his world was orderly, predictable, and protected by money. He was a self-made billionaire who believed life rewarded discipline and strength. Every hour of his day was scheduled, every environment controlled. People adjusted themselves around him without question. He rarely noticed who served his food or cleared his table. They were part of the background, invisible and interchangeable. That was how his world had always worked. His son lived in a very different reality. Born with a physical disability, the boy moved through life slowly, carefully, always aware of eyes lingering too long or turning away too fast. Public spaces were not built for him, and patience from strangers was never guaranteed. His father loved him deeply, but love did not erase frustration. He believed protection meant keeping his son close, quiet, and safe from embarrassment. Let others lead. Let others decide. That felt easier. That evening, they stepped into a high-end restaurant where power and privilege filled the air. Crystal glasses, soft lighting, and unspoken rules about who belonged and who served. The father felt comfortable there, confident, untouchable. His son, as always, stayed slightly behind him, absorbing the room with cautious curiosity. Across the floor, staff moved quickly, trained to anticipate needs without being noticed. Among them was a black waitress who had learned to survive by reading people before they spoke. She understood how judgment could settle into a room long before words ever did. Nothing about the night felt important at first. No raised voices, no confrontation, just another meal in another expensive place. But beneath the polished surface, old assumptions waited quietly. And one unexpected moment, small enough to be overlooked, was about to challenge everything this father thought he understood about power, dignity, and the kind of example he was setting for his son. The tension crept in quietly, disguised as routine. Plates were set down, water glasses refilled, movements practiced and efficient. Yet the father noticed something he wasn't used to: feeling impatience, not from himself, but from the room. The subtle glances toward his son as he adjusted his chair. The hesitation of nearby diners when the boy took a little longer to move. It was the kind of discomfort people tried to hide, but never fully could. Then the waitress approached their table. She didn't rush. She didn't look past the boy or speak only to the father, as most did. Instead, she slowed her steps, lowering herself slightly so she was level with him. The father stiffened. Years of influence had trained him to expect efficiency, not pauses. He assumed she would redirect her attention back to him, the decision maker, the one with money and authority. But she didn't. She waited. She watched the boy's hands, his posture, the way he gathered courage before moving. When music from the dining area drifted through the room, something unexpected happened. The boy reacted first. His foot tapped, his shoulders lifted. It was instinctive, unfiltered joy. The father noticed too late, already bracing for embarrassment. Public attention always came with risk. The waitress made a choice in that moment. Instead of shutting the moment down, instead of signaling for quiet or order, she gave the boy space. Encouragement without words, permission without power. She let him move first, let him lead, let the rhythm belong to him. Around them, the room changed. Some people stared, others looked away, uncomfortable. A few frowned, irritated by the disruption. The father felt heat rise in his chest, not pride, but fear. Fear of judgment, fear of losing control. He had spent his life commanding rooms, not surrendering them to unpredictability, especially not to something as fragile as joy. And then came the looks directed at the waitress. Not all were subtle. The way a manager slowed his steps nearby. The way another server paused, uncertain. The unspoken question hanging in the air. Was this appropriate? Was this allowed? The waitress felt it too. Years of navigating spaces where her presence was tolerated, but never fully accepted, had sharpened her awareness. Still, she didn't step back. The boy smiled wider. His movements grew bolder. For once, he wasn't being corrected or rushed. He wasn't being protected from himself. He was simply existing, unapologetically. The father felt torn apart by emotions he didn't yet have names for. Anger that someone else had taken control. Guilt for realizing how rarely he had allowed his own son to do the same. And something deeper, more unsettling, a recognition of how often he had mistaken silence for dignity. The room felt divided now. Support on one side, disapproval on the other, and standing between them was a black woman who knew exactly how quickly kindness could be reframed as misconduct. The moment stretched longer than anyone expected. Too long to ignore, too powerful to stop without consequences. And as the father watched his son lead without fear for the first time, he realized this wasn't just a scene unfolding in a restaurant. It was a reckoning, one that would force him to decide whether he would defend comfort or stand for something that finally mattered. The night didn't end with applause or speeches. It ended quietly, the way most life-changing moments do. The music faded, the room returned to its controlled rhythm, and people went back to their meals. But the father did not return to who he had been. He watched his son settle back into his chair, calmer, taller somehow, as if something heavy had been lifted from him. For the first time, the boy had not been managed or shielded, he had been trusted. And that trust had changed him. The waitress finished her shift unsure of what consequences might follow. Acts of humanity are often punished when they disrupt comfort. Yet what she had done lingered far beyond that restaurant. It exposed how easily dignity is withheld, how often people of color are expected to enforce silence rather than compassion. Her quiet courage revealed something brutal and true. Kindness should never be considered a risk, yet for some, it always is. The father went home carrying an uncomfortable awareness. He saw how power had blinded him not just to racism in the world, but to the ways he had limited his own child in the name of protection. He understood now that dignity isn't granted by wealth, authority, or control. It's affirmed when we allow others to lead, to be seen, to be human. This wasn't just a story about one boy, one waitress, or one wealthy man. It was about a system that teaches some people to shrink and others to dominate. About how racism and ableism often hide behind rules, order, and professionalism. And about how real change rarely comes from grand gestures, but from small moments of courage that interrupt injustice. The question isn't whether moments like this still happen. They do, every day. The real question is, when we witness them, will we look away, or will we finally choose to stand on the side of dignity?